Hi boys and girls, it's Show back with another video. Today we're looking to cover the Premier League fixtures coming up after the international break. This will be a weekly thing. I'm thinking of doing this every Thursday evening, Friday, that type of thing, so you guys can get some idea of what could happen in these games before they happen with enough time. And put in your predictions in the comments and have your say as well. So the idea of this is to put my predictions forward each week, maybe give a bit of background to the team, some of the players, and then, like I say, there's an element of open discussion here where I think could be really good for you guys to, like I say, put in your predictions in the comments, have fun with it. If you disagree with anything I say, especially if you're a fan of a team that I slag off or something like that, then that's good banter. So without further ado, let's crack on with this one. So as you can see in front of me, if I just wave my mouse about, we've got the fixture list. So we're just going to start from top to bottom. We're going to work our way through these games, and like I say, just maybe a bit of background to some of the players, teams, managers, I don't know, something like that. I'll just make it up as I go along. So we'll begin with Crystal Palace versus Spurs. This is going to be a close game, I think. I think Crystal Palace, I've watched them a couple of times actually because I've done some reporting recently on Crystal Palace, and I think under Patrick Vieira, they are adapting to a new style of play. He's quite expansive. He likes to play out from the back, which is in complete contrast to Roy Hodgson, the previous manager, who was very more pragmatic. Now they've lost over 10 players over the summer. They've not replaced a great deal of those, and the vast majority of the core elements of the squad are still very much Roy Hodgson's sort of DNA and what he brought in. So there's a huge adaptation period, I believe, for this side. Now Vieira, people might know, he did some managing in Ligue 1. He was the Nice manager. Prior to that, he did some managing in the States. He was New York City FC manager as well, and he also was in the under 21s and the kind of youth setup at Manchester City. That's where he sort of the breeding ground of his managing style, and hence why he likes to play out from the back very much in sort of the City blueprint there. So they're still adapting, but what I like about Vieira is he's not an idiot. I think early on you don't want to force these things on players, especially when you don't have the full talent and the players in to do it. So there is an element of pragmatism in there. They mix it up quite well, I think, and they are heading in the right direction. They started off with a very, very solid point against Brentford, and Brentford, I mean, before then they got battered by Chelsea, but to get the points on the board, they got a really good result against Brentford at home. I say it was a good result because Brentford were coming on the back of a victory against Arsenal, and we're high on confidence, and it is a bit of an unknown quantity playing a team that's just come up. They were very, very solid. They worked very hard. They've got battlers in there. I highlighted Conor McGregor. Should I say Conor Gallagher? Conor McGregor, that would be a good signing, definitely bringing the fans. So Conor Gallagher, I highlighted him in one of my previous videos in terms of like one of the top signings of the summer. I think he's hit the ground running, scored twice against West Ham. They stayed in that game really well. I think there's a lot of character in this team, this Crystal Palace team, and I think another home game now is just after the international break. I think is the perfect time. Some of the Spurs players as well, like Harry Kane, for example, coming off quite a difficult international period. So I think it's a good game to play Spurs. Spurs are obviously high on confidence, but Palace, they'll very much sort of be in a bit of a dogfight, and I think that will suit them for now, certainly early on in the season. Now, the issue I've had with Palace is just the fact that they don't create enough. They've not really signed a creative midfielder. Like I mentioned, Eze with the Achilles tendon issue, he's their main creator really with Wilfried Zaha. Zaha is always targeted most games as well. They double up on him, so it is very much up to someone else. So I think it's going to need players like Conor Gallagher making those runs beyond Benteke, and then they're going to need to be sort of like getting those balls in behind the back four, around the byline, cut backs, little chip balls into Benteke, and that's the way they're going to be effective. Now Spurs, they just need to keep the good times rolling, don't they? Really, they're very much in the Wolves blueprint, Espirito Santo, he likes the way he set up. It's very pragmatic, and then just a bit of stardust on the end with like Son gets the job done. You know, those moments in games, that's the way they're going to play all season, I'd believe. But they've got the players, Dele Alli, Son, Kane, Bergwijn, just fantastic players, and you know, an attack that a lot of teams would take. And I think having Oliver Skip in the midfield with Højbjerg, and I think Højbjerg, since he joined Spurs, it's just gone up a level. Like, he really suits them, and I think he's really a fan favourite over there. And yeah, I mean, the centre back partnership with Darren Sanchez has been unbelievably good so far. So I think this is going to be a really tight game. It could go either way, but you know, my sort of gut feeling on this one is that it will actually be a draw. 1-1 is my prediction. Not really sold on who's going to score first. I think I'm going to say go with Palace, and then we're going to have Spurs, you know, with that kind of winning attitude mentality at the moment. Yeah, they'll dig deep, find something in the latter stages of the game. So that's my prediction for this one. Right, moving on, we've got Arsenal versus Norwich. Now, this one, I mean, early on I thought in my head, yeah, Norwich, they've played well, not got the points they've really deserved, a bit like Wolves, and Arsenal definitely have got the points they deserve, i.e. none. They've not even registered a goal yet. But Arsenal have had a lot of injuries, they've had a lot of issues, Aubameyang and Lacazette with the COVID cases as well, which meant they've missed the last few games. They're back, I expect, what capacity I'm not sure yet. We'll find out obviously when the team sheet's released, but I think they're both going to have a part to play in this game. Because of that, they are my pick to win. I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal, but I do think you know, the way Daniel Farke sets up his team, the Norwich manager, they like to have the wing backs really, really wide, have all the creative. So that by having the wing backs very wide, obviously stretching the pitch, it creates space in the middle. So he does it on both sides deliberately. Now, it's effective when you've got the creative players in midfield that can either pick out the fullback or pick out the wingers as they go on. The issue is that they've lost their key player doing that, which was Emiliano Buendia, who went to Aston Villa in the summer, and they've replaced him with essentially they've replaced him with Billy Gilmour, which is, you know, not the same player. Billy Gilmour is much more like a guy that ticks over possession. He's young, so he could develop certainly in parts of his game, but I really think the onus is on Todd Cantwell this season, who's one of their wing forwards. 6 goals, 6 assists last season. He really needs to hit the ground running this season to get them going, because otherwise, I just think the way their formation's set up, if they don't score the chances that they inevitably do get, because they are a pretty good team in terms of creating their own chances, they get picked off quite easily. If we saw it when they got Brandon Williams on loan from Manchester United and he got picked off, they were so wide, and because they were so wide, the fullbacks, they get caught on islands quite often, so the players are not near each other enough. The centre-backs are too far away from the full-backs, the midfielders are too far away, so when you lose balls in those areas, you can really get to the heart of Norwich and get to the box really quite quickly. I just think Arsenal, the way they play, you've got Smith Rowe now, who's coming on, Ødegaard, who likes to get in the pockets. I think they'll get in the pockets of Norwich, and if they actually work hard, Arsenal, to obviously get points on the board for their fans, I'd expect them to sort of pick Norwich off in key moments of the game. So 2-1 is my prediction on that, and I think that'll be a safe bet. Now we're moving on to Brentford Brighton. Now this one I think is going to be a really good contest. I think both teams are in decent form. Brentford Brighton, actually sort of a clash of the same formation really. They both set up in like a 3-4-2-1, so quite attacking. Like I say, they often don't sit into the 5 as much. They try and keep possession and actually sort of impose their style on the opposition. I think this is a very, very, very interesting game, because Brighton, we all know under Graham Potter they play exciting football. They're well coached. They know where to be each time. Their patterns of play are excellent. Like, I love watching Brighton play. Issue with them, as we know, it's been talked to death, is that they don't really have a striker of real, consistent quality. They've got Welbeck, who's injury prone, Mopé, who, like I say, just blows hot and cold, often gets frustrated in games as well. He has started well, which could be a good indication of maybe where they are, but poor result against Everton last time out. I just think Brighton, they're a striker away of really sort of challenging for the top half of the table, but that still means they'll be decent. And I expect it to be their best season under Graham Potter, especially as the players have matured with him in this team. Now, my issue with Brighton, especially in a setup against Brentford are very, very physical. They've got great athletes. This is what's underrated about Brentford. I think they're ready to compete in this league. I think they are my pick. As much as Watford and Norwich, they also play good football. Sometimes aesthetically, you'd say better than Brentford. Brentford are my pick to stay up out of the three. I think they are going to be the most effective this season. The reason why I say that is because they've got a good combination of playing some decent football, but they're not afraid to mix up. They're not afraid to be aggressive. It's well suited to the Premier League. I think Ivan Toney's a great focal point for them. He scored about 28 goals last season. It was just absolutely terrific. And they've got Sergi Canos on the right hand side. He scored against Arsenal in the opening game. Spanish nippy player that plays in that four just in front of the back three. He can just get up and down, has energy for days, really, really direct. I think he's a terrific player, so he's going to be excellent for them this season. And the young French winger Mbuno, I think he was great in the last game that I watched him. I think he was terrific against Crystal Palace in the game before that as well. And I just think he's going to have a good season as well. Then they have the sort of physicality of Norgard, Onyeka in midfield. Their back four is incredibly tall. I'm just going to highlight that actually. So if you look on the screen here, this is the last game out against Villa where they got a good result, 1-1. And Pinnock, Janssen's their captain, Ayer. Yeah, this sort of Scandinavian back trio. I mean, they're so physically dominant. They're all well over 6 foot. They're terrific from set pieces, and because of that, they set up with this really unique style where on their corners where they're trying to score goals, they deliberately commit like literally the majority of their men in the box. They just have 2 queuing on the edge of the box to protect the ball coming back out, but they like to really go for it on the set pieces as well. And I think against Brighton, I think Brighton might do reasonably well against set pieces. They've got a good defence. Dunk, he's obviously a terrific player for them. The captain. I think he's obviously going to be massive for them this season. But for me, the major issue is in midfield for Brighton in this game, especially because they might go light for light formation. I think Bissouma and Lallana, they're both talented individually, but as a setup, I think Lallana has to do too much work defensively a bit when Pogba's playing with Fred for Man United. So I expect Brighton to struggle in this one. The fans of Brentford at the Community Stadium, I'm going Brentford 2-1. Okay, let's move on to Leicester Man City. This one, I'll keep it short and sweet. Leicester, major issues at the moment, and that is their defence is just injury ravaged. You got Vestergaard, their new signing from Southampton, who I think is a good player, really good sort of reinforcement for them. It's not obviously turned out well with the injury. Johnny Evans, who is their best centre back, injured as well. They won't be fit for the Manchester City game most likely. And Shonchu, who everyone sort of lauded as the best centre back, very much has been exposed now, sort of as a player that has benefited from Johnny Evans' sort of organisation, solidity in that partnership. He's been very, very poor this season. Got sent off in the international break as well when Netherlands battered them. Memphis Depay scoring that top hat trick. I don't see this going well for Leicester, even though they're at home. I think they'll show some endeavour. The attacking players, they've not really changed. They've got Pereira back, who was obviously terrific for them before the injury last season as well. Madison, hopefully we'll get a big season from him. He really needs to hit the ground running if he's going to sort of have any chance of making a World Cup squad. I think they're going to have to rely on some maybe super subs. Daka coming on, maybe the new signing, Iheanacho. I don't know why he's not featured more yet. I expected him to start, but he hasn't done. Man City, I think they had some sort of early struggles. They lost to Leicester City in the Community Shield. Obviously lost to Spurs in the opening game, but they've started to hit the ground running now. I think they're starting to hit form. I've waxed lyrical about their front three and the way they interchange, the fluidity behind Ferran Torres up front. I mean, I think he's Arguably, he could get in the team of the year this season, Ferran Torres. I think they don't need a striker with him there. Maybe they want one more physical for a plan B occasionally, but in terms of the way they play, he's suited down to the ground, and the fact that he's keeping Gabriel Jesus on the right just shows how highly Pep Guardiola rates him in there. I just expect this to be, maybe tight for a bit, but then just one-sided Man City because of defensive issues. So, yeah, I'm going 3-1 to Man City there. Man United, Newcastle. This one, I think the signing of Cristiano Ronaldo, that's just going to give the fans a huge lift again. A bit like when Rafael Varane was introduced. I think he, you saw when he came out into the stadium, all the fans, this huge uproar, a big lift, and then it crossed over into the game. The fans were really at Leeds and really sort of booing them, intimidating them, and then whenever United got the ball, just big cheers. It was just really, Old Trafford was bouncing, and I just think with Ronaldo, it's going to do that maybe tenfold. So I think with Newcastle and the way they've struggled, I just think, and the sort of poor recruitment as well. I think the way they set up as well, if you look at Newcastle, they're very, very defensive under Steve Bruce. They play a five at the back. It's a 5-3-2 that they set up with, and they don't really have much defensive cover because they play that back five. So Isaac Hayden, who's their defensive midfielder, has to do a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if the Longstaff brothers got introduced as well to maybe try and solidify a result, especially if they're only 1-0 down with about sort of 10 minutes to go or something like that for goal difference purposes or something like that. But really, the onus is on United. Have to hit the ground running early. Fred is going to miss this game because of that stupid rule that Brazil's introduced about the players. Now, Fred didn't even go on international duty. He's only been training with Manchester United, but somehow now he's been banned from this game as well based on these COVID rules. So whether Van der Beek starts, hope he does. Can he sort of prove that he can play this number 6? I think it's a good game to do that, especially with the fans that I think will carry us home in this one. But yeah, could easily see Solskjaer just going for the safe pair of hands in Nemanja Matic, and because the amount of possession we'll have, Nemanja Matic won't be exposed on the half turn as much. Sam Maximan, Newcastle star player, it's all on him, isn't it? He shouldn't be at Newcastle. Someone should have signed him in the summer. He's got another year left, and then he's out of there, and he can go on to greener pastures. So, yeah, my prediction for this one, I'm just going to go 3-0 Manchester United. Nice and simple. Now, moving on to Southampton versus West Ham. This one, I think, kind of high-intensity game. Southampton like to get on the press. West Ham have been pressing a lot more this season than they did last. You've got Fornals, who's kind of fulfilled that Lingard role now, and it shows that Lingard should have signed for West Ham because Fornals is having his best ever season because he's in Lingard's position in this setup, and I think he really that sort of in the pocket number 10 really suits this David Moyes system. So yeah, he's been terrific for them. Antonio, as we know, is just an absolute machine, physically dominant. Southampton, Armstrong, I think he's been a terrific signing. I think he, really is a good, busy player. Great on the half term. Like I say, he's one of those players that sort of bounces off challenges. So I very much think he'll be a threat against West Ham. Sort of, trying to chase the defensive line. And yeah, Southampton like to press, so I expect early pressure from Southampton, but I expect West Ham, just with their experience now, their know-how, the way they've played at the start of this season, the end of last. I think the fact that they conceded goals so quickly against Crystal Palace in the last game, where they should have won that game, and then they conceded immediately with a lack of concentration. I think David Moyes will make sure they're right on it all throughout this game. So I expect them to get a foothold. Like I say, it'll be close for a bit. But then I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham for this one. Right, moving on to Watford Wolves. We have, this game, I don't expect it to be, it's not a great headliner. I think Watford play some good stuff. Xisco, their manager, the Spanish manager, plays some terrific football. They get exposed a bit at the back. I expect this to happen in this game as well. Ismail Assar, we all know he's their star player. 9 goals, 4 assists last season. 23 years old, Senegalese player. He's absolutely terrific. I expect someone to probably snap him up this season if he could have another good season for Watford in the Premier League. So, very much I expect Watford to dominate possession, to be exciting. Wolves, they've been terrific in 3 games and lost 1-0. I expect them to be good, to tactically manage the game, and then finally expect to Diarmature, maybe Trincao, Jimenez finally to get a goal. So it's going to be Wolves getting a goal, I think. Watford playing some terrific stuff. I think they'll cancel each other out because of that. Both have some good phases of play in the game, and so my pick for this one is a 1-1 draw. Moving on to Chelsea Aston Villa. This one, I think this one's nice and easy to predict, really. I think Villa will have their best game of the season, so I think they'll have phases in this game. Ings, Buendia, they could be a dynamic duo. Ings loves to press, very busy player, terrific finisher, great running in behind. Buendia, we know he's a magician, likes to pop on the right predominantly, but can go in the pocket centrally as well. But yeah, defensively, I think they've struggled this season. Villa, they've not really got the balance right, so I expect them to sort of address that, and because of that, I think they'll stay in the game for longer. But I just think the Tuchel train is rolling now, so I expect a moment of kind of like physicality from Lukaku, a bit of jinky play from like a Pulisic or a Werner on the wing. I expect the creation to be there for Chelsea, so it'll be a close game. But yeah, Tuchel train rolls on. Chelsea 2-1 for me. Leeds Liverpool on Sunday. This one I think could go either way. I think it could be Leeds could have another poor showing where they're defensively, having lapses in concentration. We know their suicide style. They like to be aggressive on the press. They pal a lot, which is like pressing after loss. The moment you lose the ball, instant press onto the next player. They like to jump teams with the press as well. The moment you think you've got an opportunity, you've closed a possession from the opposition into a nice angle, or it's obviously on one of their weaker players in possession. A bit like if you were playing Man United, it was leading to Amrosaka, you jump press them. Leeds do a lot of that. Terrific work off the ball, but the issue is that you're asking a lot from players that are not sort of elite level. So I think early on in the season they're not hit mid-season form yet. And because of that, I mean, you'd expect Liverpool to win, but I'm actually going to just gamble on the fact that Leeds might get it together here. Liverpool, some of their players like Van Dijk coming from an international break, only recently coming back from an injury. I think Liverpool's midfield is the weakest it's been, and they haven't really reinforced there. Sort of not a great transfer window for them. So it may come across as Manchester United bias. I know that it might appear that way, but I'm just going to go with a sneaky bet that this is going to be a 1-1 draw. And then we're just going to end nice and quickly on Everton Burnley. I think I'm just blocking the view a bit here, actually. Yeah, Everton Burnley, I think this will be a war of attrition. Both teams love to get crosses in. I think Everton have a little bit more technical ability, especially with the signing of Damari Gray, Townsend as well, who they can bring on as like a super sub, Wobi as well, with the creativity. They've got more flary players, and basically that's my deciding factor on this one. I think they're going to cancel each other out in terms of their tactics, the way they like to hit long balls, get the crosses into Calvert-Lewin, as Burnley like to get the crosses into, Brownhill's got a lovely cross on him in midfield as well. He's their creative spark, takes a lot of their set pieces as well. Chris Wood and Barnes, I mean, they suit each other down to the ground. They know exactly where the other player is going to be, little knockdowns. Hopefully Maxwell Cornet will feature in this game. That would be great if we can see him, because he was in my top 10 transfers. I think he's going to be terrific for them. Very, very exciting player, at fullback to slash wing, depending on how they use him early on. But yeah, Everton to get a late one here, I'd expect. So I'm going to go with a Calvert-Lewin header, something like that. Last 10 minutes is my pick for this one. So 1-0 Everton. Okay, so that's going to do it, everybody. So that's my predictions. You throw yours in the comments section. That was really good fun. If it's too much description, let me know. Any kind of criticism, absolutely fine with me. I love it. I'll just take it on board, roll with it. But I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.